Okay, great. Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Pirate Parents Live. Sorry we're a little late. We had some technical difficulties. Gotta love technology, but we got it all fixed. So this afternoon we are talking about university scholarships. Since ECU scholarships open November 1st, we thought it would be a great idea to talk about it, answer some frequently asked questions, and give some tips for students about how to make their applications successful. So with me this afternoon is Melanie Bryan, the Director of University Scholarships. If you are watching the live version of this video, you can put questions into the comment section. We have colleagues who will be able to answer you there. If you're watching the recorded version, you can also put questions into the comment section. My office gets that notification, and so you can, we get that notification, so we'll get you an answer as soon as possible. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So to kind of get things started, I thought it would be nice to ask, or to talk about something that might seem like a silly question to us just because we know, but I think it's an important question for everyone to know is what is the difference between scholarships and financial aid?
Scholarships are something that you earn based off of talent or grades, and you don't have to pay it back, whereas some financial aid, like a loan, you have to pay back. That's the biggest difference. Is one is basically free money that you are rewarded with, and the other is money that you have been awarded, maybe based on need, but you may also have to pay it back.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's something that, like I said, we know quite well, but it might seem like a silly question to us. But, you know, I think people who are new to the process see them as something very similar, so it's important for us to talk about it. So my next question and something for us to talk about is when can students begin applying for scholarships? I know next week is the start date. And then how long do they have to apply for the ECU scholarships?
Okay, so students can actually start their application anytime they want to after August 1st, but the actual scholarship opportunities for existing ECU students opens November 1st. Our scholarship deadline, except for nursing, Brody, and dental, tends to be January 15th, and then those three health sciences areas have later due dates because of their admissions processes.
Gotcha. So yeah, big dates is you can go ahead and start whenever you want, but if you're a returning student, so a sophomore, junior, I guess senior student,
right,
November 1st is the date.
Correct.
And then the general application deadline is January 15th.
Correct.
So mark that down and tell your students to remember those deadlines and those dates. With these ECU scholarships, who is eligible to apply, and what do ECU scholarships require? Do they require anything special or different?
Okay, so everybody's eligible to apply. We have major and non-major specific opportunities. So if you were a biology major, you would want to apply, and the system's going to look and see, oh, Melanie is a biology major, apply her into these opportunities. Then we have some that are very unique. Children of firefighters, children whose parents work at particular corporations. Those would pop up on your dashboard to consider whether or not you meet the extra requirements, and you typically answer a question or two so that we can confirm your eligibility. Basic general scholarship application is asking for things like campus involvement, service to your community, what are you involved in, maybe outside of the university, just looking sort of for the resume items. And then we're going to import things like what your major is, how many credit hours you've taken and completed, what your GPA is, because some scholarships are going to look at the essay answers, some scholarships are going to look at the numeric, the things like grades and class or classification. Sorry about that. Because it may be for a rising junior or a rising senior, and so that's why we would need to know credit hours. Shouldn't take a student more than about 30-40 minutes to do the scholarship application, and literally that one application can be looked at for 25-30 different scholarships.
Gotcha. So you talked about that scholarship application and the general scholarship application, and so that's a part of just the applying process. Can you go over just kind of more in more depth about the process as a whole?
Sure. So the actual application is located on the student's Pirate Port account. They go to Pirate Port, they go to ECU Award, they do their application, They may have to answer an essay question or two. They're going to apply between now and January 15th. Between January 15th and the end of February, we have right at 150 different scholarship committees that will then go to work looking at the different applications, making their selections. The end of February, we're going to start sending emails to students' email accounts, not their Gmail, not their pre-admit email, but their ECU student account. Congratulations, you've been selected for. They click on a link and it's going to open up to an award letter, tell them what they must do to accept it, how much it is, what period it's for. We have some scholarships that may be for next summer, like a study abroad scholarship, but our traditional scholarships are split half fall, half spring, unless you are a December graduate, and then you would get your scholarship award all in the fall. After you've gotten your notice, you probably need to write a thank you letter, and you upload that thank you letter right into the portal from the link in your offer letter. Nothing works better with our donors than to tell them thank you for their gift, and they love hearing from the students that are receiving their scholarships.
Awesome, thank you. So I know one thing about ECU scholarships and the portal that students apply in through their Pirate Port, go into that portal. They can see auto match awards and then apply to awards. So I feel like, students seeing this for the first time might get a little confused, and even if families are helping them, sitting down and going through it with them. Can you talk about the difference
Sure.
between those two?
Sure. So an auto match means everything we need to know that you meet the requirements fits and sits in your application. So when you look at that opportunity in the portal, in actions, it'll say none, because all you have to do is submit your general scholarship application. And if I'm looking for a student from a particular county, a particular major, with a particular GPA, the system's going to automatically match you into those that you meet the requirements for. The apply tos are those where it takes an additional data point. Is your parent a firefighter? Did you survive pediatric cancer? Does your parent work for a particular company? Are you related to a veteran from Pamlico County? And there'll be one or two little questions that you then answer to help us make sure you meet the requirement, and then you submit an actual application based on those extra essay questions to apply to those that are unique. The other thing that's always an apply to is study abroad, because you have to talk about when you're traveling, where you're traveling, what you think you'll get out of traveling. But again, it's one or two extra questions that don't require a lot of detail beyond enough to help us see that you meet the requirements.
Gotcha. That's really helpful, because I know, I'm sure a lot of students are like, I don't know the difference between the two.
I get a lot of it won't let me apply, and I keep saying, you don't have to do anything but the general application. The system will oh, that's what auto match means. So it comes up a lot.
Yep. So number one, always just fill out that general application
Exactly.
first. Yep. So my next question is, let's see. So ECU does have a lot of scholarships that are available to students here just at ECU, from donors, from colleges, from particular, student organizations, a huge amount. But ECU, we also encourage students to look at scholarships outside of ECU. So can you talk about some important things to look for, and maybe how to find some of those scholarships that aren't ECU specific?
So we always, first rule, never pay to apply for a scholarship. Never, ever. But Google is a powerful tool. You Google your major and scholarships for engineering students, scholarships for biology majors. There's some national search engines, fastweb.com, scholarships.com, csascholars.org. There's some very reputable ones. If you're a North Carolina student, the North Carolina Community Foundation, the Triad Community Foundation, CFNC, College Foundation North Carolina, all have scholarships on them. And it's an annual process. It's not the year you were a senior in high school or the year you were a freshman in college. You look throughout your collegiate career, and even when you're into medical school, professional school, graduate school. But read the instructions, make sure you meet the requirements, make sure you complete the application. But again, don't pay to apply. There's too much free money out there, too many free applications. If you are active in your community with civic groups, things like Kiwanis, Rotary, those all do scholarships. Your parents' place of employment. If you work or have an account with a credit union, a lot of credit unions do scholarships for their members. So always ask, and I'll have a lot of students say, I saw this opportunity, is it legitimate? And I'll usually do a Google search and help them make sure, yes. But the North Carolina Professional Engineers do scholarships for engineering students in North Carolina. The North Carolina Association of Certified Public Accountants do scholarships for students in North Carolina. So that would be checking the areas of your major. But there are lots of opportunities, and then you can stack those awards. You can take an ECU award and a PE&C from the engineers of North Carolina, and you can put those two together, because none of them are probably going to be huge to throw you off of your financial aid, but at some point every dollar counts.
Mm-hmm. Every single dollar counts. So since we were talking about those outside scholarships, with an ECU specific scholarship, it's very easy. It's, automatically rolls into your account. There's not much, physical paperwork that is being exchanged. But with outside scholarships, your student may receive that check in the mail at home, and you may be like, how do we get this to ECU and into that account? So can you talk about what
Sure.
that process is?
Sure. So if the check's made payable just to the student, then the student manages the money and uses it for whatever they need. Again, paying attention to what the donor says, because they may require that you send them back a receipt where you bought your textbooks. But if it's made payable to ECU or to ECU and the student, you submit it to the cashier's office, or you can submit it to my office. We're going to post it to your account and use it to pay your ECU costs, whether that's tuition, room and board. Always remembering to read the instructions, because it may say, we need you to send us your December grades in order to get your spring portion. And it's going to tell you where to send them and when to send them by. If you've already paid your bill, when that outside scholarship comes in, then it's going to go back to you as a refund that then you can use for other school-related costs. But again, if you've got a question, always shoot us a copy of your award letter. Let us look at it. If you've got to have a proof of enrollment or a proof of, a certified copy of your transcript, we have ways to get those for you so that you meet that donor's requirements and continue to receive those funds.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thank you. So you did mention earlier about never, pay someone to apply for scholarships or to find scholarships. Can you talk about any other big warning signs when looking for scholarships and maybe being able to find, some scams out there?
Anytime that they're asking for personally identifiable data, your social security number, be very leery. It's kind of like with social media. Think about what you're giving somebody and whether it's the information that would allow them to perpetuate fraud against you. That's what you don't want to have happen. Also, again, when in doubt, trust your instincts. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And again, if you're not sure, send it to us at scholarships.ecu.edu, and we'll help you research it before you put something out there that may come back to haunt you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are bad people out there, as you know, and so it is important to be very wary when looking for scholarships.
Right, but if you give them, your address, your social, and a phone number,
mm-hmm.
they've got everything they need. If it's not a reputable site, look at what their email address is. Look at reviews on them. Just check them out. But, to be cautious is a good thing. But yes, there really are scholarships out there, and there really are legitimate companies. But, you know, if it's, we draw a name once a quarter for essays, that might not be one you want to apply for. But if it's coming from a known commodity like the North Carolina Certified Public Accountants Association, that one's probably real. But again, when in doubt, we're happy to help you look.
So as we kind of wrap up, what are some helpful tips that you have for students that our parents can share with them about how to be successful when filling out scholarship applications?
Read the instructions, answer the questions in full. I know we tell our kids growing up that bragging's not nice, but a scholarship application is the one place where you really do want to brag. You want to talk about what you've done, how often you've done it, how long you've done it, how much you did. Have somebody read and proofread it behind you. You get one chance to make that first impression, so you want it to, you know, logically flow. You don't want typos. You want to use correct grammar. I know we're in a text mode, especially for the last couple of years where everything has been virtual, but on the other end of that could be someone with a PhD who wants to see that you wrote full sentences. So follow the directions. If it asks for a reference, make sure you invite it or ask that person if they're willing to be a reference, provided them the information to give a good reference, your current resume, your current grades, and you've given them enough time. If the application is due tomorrow, asking them to be your reference today is pretty unfair on that reference provider, so give them enough time. Always visit the ECU website. We have handouts on how to write a good personal statement, how to write a resume, how to ask a reference. You know, read the directions. Keep a copy. If you get called for an interview, you want to remember what you said in that essay, because chances are they're going to ask you something that was in that essay. And you've written 5 or 6 different ones, and you're like, oh my God, what did I say on that one? So I know we don't want to, you know, kill too many trees, but save an electronic copy so that you've got it handy. Follow the directions. Give yourself and any reference provider plenty of time, and then cross your fingers, because that little bit of effort always, could turn around and be $1,000 that you weren't expecting, or $2,000, or heck, even $500. And I know everybody says $500 isn't always a lot of money, but if it took you 30 minutes. $500 for 30 minutes, that's the equivalent of making $1,000 an hour. Not many jobs are going to pay you $1,000 an hour. So take your time, and students go $500, parents go, that's part of a meal plan, or that's textbooks. So 500 here and 1,000 there suddenly is impactful. And then if you get something from an outside agency, make sure you follow up and do your due diligence, because it could renew, or you could be eligible to apply again. So you want to make a good impression the first year you had it, so that you are considered in good standing for the second year.
Yep, and being someone who, we do have a scholarship in the Office of Parent Family Programs, and so we do review scholarship applications, and so being on the end of reading scholarships and reading those applications, the extra effort makes an impression and goes a long way, because we do look at 40, 50 different applicants, and the 10, that put in that extra effort, they stand out, and we take a closer look at them, so it is very important. Well, do you have any other information that you're like, oh, we didn't talk about this and we need to, that's standing out in your brain before we close?
Just always read. If you get it on your phone screen, think about opening it up on a laptop in case there was a link and your phone screen is so small you miss that link. I think, and this is just a good advice for students, is periodically sit down and go through your emails on a bigger screen to make sure you didn't miss an important add-on at the bottom. I see students say, oh, I didn't even know that there was an award letter, because they opened it and it's this big. I'm actually glad that phones are going big again, because there's more view room. But I do. I think sometimes they overlook some of the requirements because they're not seeing it on a big enough screen to realize they're out there. So it's an investment in you to always take a few extra minutes and make sure you've seen everything.
Most definitely. Thank you, Melanie, for
You're
joining
welcome.
us this afternoon. If you have any questions, to go ahead and check out the scholarship website, scholarships.ec.edu. There's a ton of really awesome information. Like Melanie said, there are guides for applying for a scholarship, guides for asking for a reference, and getting a transcript, and all of the things that your student may need, as well as some really great information for you for assisting your students. So it's super easy. Again, scholarships.ec.edu. And if you can't find your answer on that website, you can send your questions to scholarships@ec.edu, which is Melanie's email, and the University Scholarships Office email. And so we hope you learned something, and we hope that you got some information that you can give to your students as they start applying for scholarships. And so if you need anything, reach out to us, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.